Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. I'm really delighted today to catch up to artist, curator, teacher, National Endowment for the Arts recipient, collaborator, founder of the Global Art Project, Carl Heyward. We were just joking. I felt like I talked to him, had an interview conversation maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years. I think it's been 5 years. So we bonked into each other in the hall in my building, and I was like, oh my God, we got to catch up. And we thought we'd do that today with you. So welcome, Carl. Thanks for stopping by.
My pleasure. Let's make it official.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah. So we have a lot to go over, but I know a lot of folks, maybe some don't know your background and give us all your, let me just say, I think of you this way, and I think it's a good lead in. I think of you, first, his art's amazing, you guys. And by the way, your art will be spliced into this video. Wonderful. So you can go check out Carl's notes. For you guys who are just listening, you can click on the show notes and go see his work. But whenever I see his work, I feel you because I feel like you have such a deliberateness around disparity, but between putting two different things together. That's your jam. That's what you do so beautifully, and you do it in your life. And I know your background's been really varied. There's this tension with what you gather and put it, right?
I
like that's the whole thing.
I couldn't agree more. That's a fantastic analysis, and I think it's really important. One, a situation like this that we're sitting having a conversation after 5 years.
It's 5 years.
Which is crazy. It's important because both things change, things get more clear to us as we're doing these things. To put together divergent or disparate materials is absolutely what I do. The subset of that, which is not the main part of my practice, but an important part of my practice, is a collaboration. And I think it's also been important for me to make those distinctions because when you get feedback from someone, well, Carl, you do this, you do that, the visceral instinct is to correct the person or to correct the thinking of the situation. And I do think a lot about what I do because in order to do what I do, I have to be, or I choose to be conscious about it, even though there's a lot of spontaneity and there's a lot of intuitive energies behind what I do. But I think that balance of left brain, right brain is important for me to have pure creativity and then at some point assess what you're doing and to bring your full battery of intellectual acumen into this wacky thing that you just put on a canvas or on a board or whatever. Right. And yeah, my background is varied. I'm an East Coast guy from DC originally, grew up in an academic family, and I really wasn't having anything to do with that. I enjoyed music, and I played in bands and that kind of thing for a lot of years. From about, I think, 14 till 30-something, because I'm old now. I was involved in mass media, production, video, television, radio, that kind of thing. And I think what I've used my jobs for, my occupations, was to gain access to situations that I was curious about. For instance, I worked for San Francisco Symphony in development for about 8 seasons, and that allowed me to have access to music. I play classical music and also jazz and also rhythm and blues when I was a teenager and stuff. So I have eclectic musical taste. I have eclectic artistic taste. The people that are around me, my friends, my relationships are also eclectic people that seems completely normal and natural to me. It's only when, not so much talking about it now, but when I get someone reflects on, this is who you are, Carl, they let me know who I am. It's interesting because what feels completely natural to me or hard won seems to just be not the norm in this culture. The separation of cultures, of people, of races, of classes, of occupations, to categorize people, I think is, to paraphrase you, is people's jams, or this kind of fear-based, you've got to be just like me for me to know you or to deal with you. And, you know, that doesn't appeal to me and never has. I went to school in D.C. I went to school with Africans and Italians and ambassadors' sons, people from Egypt. And then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia in the 60s, and it was not quite that. I'll just put it to you like that, but I value the experience. I didn't necessarily at the time, because I've met lifelong friends. I learned in the 60s, because that was when I was growing up. An incredible time of foment and growth and resurgence and revolution, evolution in the world. I learned that in places that are suppressed or repressed, that underground group of people, of creative people, are just making incredible art or incredible music or writing incredible things. And I had that experience with these people in my teens and 20s in the southern United States. It really was life-changing for me that I had a good friend who said to me one time when I was in college, you know, we're going to class every day, but then we're entertaining ourselves, we'll say, making art all day and all night, and then, it's time to go to class the next day kind of thing. And he said something that was really revelatory to me at the time, and when you're 20, everything's revelatory, right? But he said, Carl, you think that you're the only one, and it didn't mean talent, it didn't mean intelligence, but just this scared freak guy who, you know, did things that people kind of like, what you doing? Kind of, I mean, why do you think that way? Why do you do that? You think that's art? That's not music, that kind of thing. And it would be some years after I moved West Coast to San Francisco that I would begin to really feel much more comfortable in my skin, if you will, in my artistic or creative skin, because I did obviously meet people who were like me, who were creative thinkers, who, you know, viewed the world similarly, who looked at themselves, ourselves, as the canary in the bird cage kind of thing, or the mine shaft, or whatever the phrase is. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me that you know, the colorful surroundings, people, and situations. I mean, that's just seems like you just operate best with that. You know. Yeah.
There's a recognition of diversity, and not in the PC manner, but diversity of difference, of change, that we're all reduced finally to a set of emotions that you can count on, a set of experiences that we may have different perspectives about, but we all, life, death, love, change. You have to shower in the morning, so to speak, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That there's a shared experience, a commonality in our existence. And, you know, not to be overly philosophical about it, but these are things that I take to heart, and these are things that kept me going when I had my doubts about what my vocation is, what my calling is. I mean, now if there's a 5-year-old kid, I don't think they want to be firemen, policemen. They want to be scientists and computer programmers, I guess, I don't know, or Barbie designers, I don't know. But how many say, even at this point in time, that I want to be an artist, I want to be a creative person, where that natural instinct comes to a child, and we know that the best artists are children in the first place, and we're all obviously influenced by their creativity and spontaneity, their lack of inhibition, and their lack of a sense of limitation. And that's extremely important. So I don't know, I kind of stray from the point there, but, you know, still this idea about diversity, give me a lot of differences and I'll find the commonality in it. And I think that also relates to my work. You can give me anything, and this is beyond ego, give me anything and I can find a relationship between them. And I look at that as an exercise that keeps me stimulated, that keeps me interested, that keeps me going, that I can juxtapose or connect, be it by mark or paint or color or objects, how they relate to each other in maybe in an unorthodox or unusual way, but an undeniable dialogue, vocabulary is apparent, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and I was, as you were saying that, because I know you do workshops and you you mentor people, and isn't it true also working with different people, finding the commonalities, and then also how you explain something and how somebody, it's a different key for different people. It's quite similar actually to art making. You have this problem in front of you, and then you solve it a different way, and it's somebody standing there trying to find their way, and there's just, it's intuitive, but there's different ways to bring clarity for people.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the jokes that I learned was humorous, and I share in the workshops is there's a couple of exercises that I do before we really get into the work, and this is based on language and perception. And you will say the simplest thing now: take that paper and fold it in half. I learned that there's many ways to go half on a piece of paper, more so than the way that I had intended it to go. So we'll make the joke about it, the correction will be made, or I won't make the joke about it, and we'll just go for what happens. And it's all fine. So it makes me take a look at my presumption that I've got my technique down, so that here's my words, do as I'm suggesting to you, please. And people will reinterpret it so many times. Or there's one person in the group who reinterprets it in a way that, well, that's a very interesting perspective. So you can't assume anything.
It's like we can't help our individuality just spills out all the time. I do these workshops, and they're on 12 by 12 inch panels. We use these wood panels, and we paint them white. And the first night, and I used to do it for all the students. I'd paint them all myself, and then I realized you don't need to do that. And it's actually really, really great, kind of like Tom Sawyer's Fence, for people who don't know each other to actually be painting on the board and not having to make anything. It's just it was the best exercise, so much fun. So that's what we do the first night. We're all painting our boards, and it's like a sewing bee. But what's crazy is that every single person's board, and they do 10 of them, so all the 10 are kind of the same. Some are painted with the paint's really thin, some paint the wrong side, some people are very miserly with the paint, some people use it. And I mean, you could walk around and give a critique based on, they're all using white paint, they're all using these panels. But we're all and that's sort of my first lesson, is that no matter what, it's gonna come out. You don't have to worry about that.
That's right, that's right. You make a wonderful point. I mean, the visual on that I'm laughing about, because I know exactly that. And to go back from the jump start on that, of you painting all the panels, which in one sense is like, okay, this is all set and we can just not waste the time and go right into it. And the deal of it is, wait a minute, I'm depriving these people, and plus I need a break, you know what I mean? I'm depriving these folks of actually doing this themselves, and it gives you a chance to kind of observe them, to have their communication. You can watch, as you say, someone's very miserly. You go up to someone sometimes, even we're doing the Wailing Wall or their own piece, and I'll say, use some paint. Don't worry about it. It's a workshop. Use the paint, go for it. And, so no workshop is ever the same. No two are the same. No mentoring situation is ever the same. I'll walk in sometimes and I have a whole set, a litany of exercises, but on another level, which I think brings out the best in me and hopefully the best in the gathering, is I have no idea what I'm going to do. I mean, we got a big board here. I've got paper for you. We've got boards, et cetera. We'll make it work, but I don't know what we're going to do. And so I'll feel them. I'll talk with them for a minute and I'll say, what is it you want to do? And of course, you got, what do we do now? What do I do with the paper? What do I do next? I'm going like, I don't know. Let's look at it. Let's see. Let's see what's needed. You know? What I mean?
That's so good.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do for this group. It's like, well, why don't you ask them?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that idea of painting all the boards, I think, was really born out of my own insecurity. I just wanted it to be successful.
Of course.
I'll just make it look like the Hyatt Regency show, which is exhausting.
Yes.
So that's cool. So you have a group in a workshop, and they come, and I mean, I know there's themes that we
Yes,
teach, but
yeah.
so that's part of your process. You just kind of ask what people are wanting.
And when I may open up that way, who are you, why are you here, what do you expect to have happen here? And then after that, go around, and this is an example. I'll say, let me let you know something. We're not here to create masterpieces, and we're also not here to even make completed work. Now, this is an oblique way to create very good work and to create a number of pieces, because everyone walks out with 5, 10 pieces and several works in progress and hopefully some ideas of what they'll go into the studio. But as opposed to rigidly or to say, we will make 10 pieces and you will do this and it will look like that. As I say, it's an oblique way to kind of, psychologically fool ourselves. And this is also, now that I mention it, this is also a way that I work, and I try to transmit that to a certain extent. It's like, just work, step back, figure it out, look at it. Well, if nothing else, this is a journal for how I am today. This is, this splotch and that bad line and this horrible circle I just made and that bad mix of colors. That's okay. I accept that. Now let's get to work, or use that as a basis. That may be completely obscured by the time one has finished that day or 2 weeks later. But it's important, I think, to just claim the substrate, claim the surface, to imprint yourself, good, bad, ugly, and different on your surface, and to do multiple surfaces, to do multiple substrates. And having said that, I will also try to vary that, because everything becomes routine. Even the most revolutionary idea of, like, let's paint backwards and have no shirt on, that becomes, okay, now let me take off my shirt, and that becomes like something predictable, in other words.
Habitual.
Habitual, exactly. So let's break our habitual modes of working, of thinking, of being, to the extent that we can. I find that stimulating. I find that exciting. It keeps me going, because nobody wants to work with me if I'm not interested, if I'm not excited about what I'm doing. And that defies being tired, that defies having had a bad day or a bad setup for a workshop or a mentoring session. I had horrible traffic driving someplace, whatever it may be. I've got personal problems, and I don't need to put the fake corporate smile on either. What it is this is a real gift that we have, and it's a real privilege, it's an honor to be given the trust of someone or a group of people to be part of their practice, to impart what I know or have been through, to be vulnerable, and to in turn share a vulnerability with whoever I'm working with. This is a sacred practice that we have, and I mean, it's not news. It may be news to the Instagram generation, but I promise you, this is an ancient practice that we're involved in, and we dress it up with academic words and accolades and this, that, and the other. But it's a very special thing, and if I can keep that in mind, hopefully, while I'm working with somebody, but certainly after, it's what drives me, and it keeps me sane. Keeps me sane. That's an important thing. This is an incredible practice.
I love how you were talking about this is kind of a snapshot of today. If nothing else, this is what I made today.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it because you saw that post I did about rejection and when, whatever, when things aren't going so well in your art. I'm sure I'm not over it entirely, but it's very rare that I'm working on something and I get attached to needing to have it turn out, or that it's particularly good or not. Like, I really feel free in that now, more than ever.
Yeah, I get that.
It's so interesting, and it's taken a long time. And there's lots of other things. I mean, I don't want to say I say all the time on this, and there's lots of things. But with this practice, with these, I'll put anything on Instagram. I mean, I just literally, it's just whatever I'm making is kind of okay.
Yeah.
And if that's the daily thing, it's the practice of being okay with whatever you're making. You're more free when you do it.
Absolutely.
And some of it turns out great. A lot of it is kind of on project. But I love that workshop mentality. You're not here to make a masterpiece. You're here to get excited. You're here to make a whole bunch of things. And sometimes some of those things become amazing.
correct.
I think that's a maturity. I think that's a coachable thing that people who are coming along can get from people like yourself.
Thank you for that, and I agree with you, and I think you also impart that as well. One thing that when I was saying the spiel that I give at some point about we're not here to make masterpieces, et cetera, for a purpose that's done because, as I say obliquely, it's a strategy to actually have people get that monkey off their back so that they can be free to create something good. I also say, and I have to repeat this, and this goes back to our talking about by repetition or the timing when what you're transmitting or talking about actually starts to make sense. It's through repetition. The repetition that becomes a habit that's a healthy habit as opposed to the habitual modes that we practice that just become prisons for us.
Yeah.
So habit is not a bad thing, but not all habits are good things. And so to distinguish those two things is, I think, our role as facilitators or leaders, if not teachers. I also say to trust yourself. Trust yourself because you can resolve it. Trust yourself. And that is, the self-talk. Oh, I'm horrible. I screwed it up. That's bad. And I usually, if I'm not too tired, if they haven't tired me out too much, I'll say, listen, you're being self-deprecating, and that's self-defeating. There's no benefit. Listen to the language. Listen to what you're telling yourself.
Words.
Listen to the words. And of course, this makes one armchair psychologist, but that's okay too. That's okay too, because I stand behind what I know to be true or what I've witnessed and practiced. And I have to, like you, practice what I preach. So I'm alone now, and I'm not before the adoring hordes or whatever. And I'm like hating what I'm doing. And
Right now in your practice, you mean?
no.
Yeah,
Theoretically, I'm actually very happy with what I'm doing. I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
But just as an example, I have to practice what I preach, which is true even at this moment. I mean, it is true all the time, but there's sometimes where that's much more poignant or much more impactful and important, where I have an idea, and whether it's a physical, concrete idea or just the idea, I want to enjoy and have the benefit of having painted today or made art because I feel so good to do it. It feels so good. And I'm having a rough day and I'm angry. Akiko yelled at me, I don't know, or something like that. And I don't even see her. I need relief. I need spiritual relief. I need to feel better. And I know that if I can have a couple, 3 hours in the studio, that no matter what the outcome is, I'll feel good. And of course, then there's sometimes where it's idea-led, and I have a concept, and there you go for whatever, it's not going to be completed that day, which takes me back to what I'm doing right now. I've had fortunately luxury problems, a bunch of shows that I've had to get the work together, get the stuff framed, and then deliver the work or whatever it is. And that's not a one-day thing. That's like weeks and weeks and weeks. And once it's delivered, okay, can you send some pictures and can you blah, 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 blah. And as I say, these are luxury problems. I'm not complaining, except I am complaining. You know what I mean? I'm happy to complain.
Yeah.
And I'll get in the studio a little later. And then I have to take a nap, and I'm an old man. I'm going to bed now. It's finished, and I'm angry that I didn't get in the studio. So, I have these conflicting emotions going on. And yesterday, after about a week, I was able to spend quality time in the studio. As I was saying before we started, I've this year, actually the last 6 months of this year, I've consciously gone into my stack of unfinished work and works in progress and rediscovered a bunch of things and finished them, mounted them, did whatever I had to do with them, and then put them out. And as a matter of fact, there's a couple of shows that these pieces that were just sitting in my shelf are now in shows right now because they're fresh. They're an element of my practice that I wasn't in control of as far as what I was putting out. Yeah. So that's wonderful. But the bottom line is, just as these guys represent me being involved in my practice, I needed to physically get in there and work. So I slammed some canvases on the board, and I did just some work I just want to move around. And okay, it's kind of cool. They're not finished. And now here's the fun part, and this is, oh, is it finished? Is it finished? They're minimal pieces with a lot of energy. And I looked at them late night, and I looked at them this morning. I did put them up as works in progress, as studio work.
Are they on paper? Like,
Yeah,
you work a lot on paper.
Yeah, I do.
With all kinds of things, you guys, by the way, right? We haven't even talked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, anything that's around, literally.
Right.
You know.
Oh, that fire hydrant. Huh? You know what I mean?
But paint, collage,
Yeah, absolutely.
graphite, whatever.
I'm a mixed media artist, and one of the
Yeah.
definitions for me is that it's whatever's available. And what's interesting after doing this for a long time is that then there are things that I won't do. It's like, I do play with cardboard. I love burlap. I've got some burlap pieces in abeyance, just waiting for the right moment. That may take 2 or 3 years. Who knows? You know what I mean? But there are things that it's time to frag these out, to send them out to my global group now, because I'm not going to work on this thing. I'm not going to use that material. There are things, when I started working very seriously, I guess in this phase around, I don't know, 2012 or something, one of the things, I was defining what are frags, what are fragments? These are detritus that you find, and you can incorporate them in your art. So I'm oh my God, and you're outside, here's a shopping list that somebody threw away, here's that. I don't do that as much anymore, and I feel that I've exhausted certain materials. But the impetus or the umbrella for what I define as cultural artifacts, archaeological evidences or digs, that's still consistent. Sometimes I have to get away from that and just go, you know what, let's do some of this just paint today. Just paint today. Don't do the mix. All of it's a challenge, no matter what. I mean, Akiko, as you know, my partner, my wife, is a fiber artist primarily, and she's moved more into painting of late and using a lot of the materials that we both share jointly.
Great.
And so it's great to watch how she manifests and evolves things along. And we have a common aesthetic, and we influence each other, not consciously, because we share and occupy the same space, both the psychological space and the physical space. So a lot of times I will see, oh, I'm actually working in a tapestry format or a quilt format, because that's what she does. And then I'll see a lot of times, oh, she's got some marks going here, some smears and paint.
You can see each other's work?
Yes. So, and then we also consciously, both spontaneously and purposely, if that's the context, we'll do collaborative work. We've always done. That was part of the attraction for us when we met 10 more years ago, was just the ease with which we could collaborate with each other. Sometimes in real time, sometimes it's like I'll start something and give it to her and she'll completely transform it. So we've got a lot of different stuff going. Both I do, she does, we do. And it's all different, but there's a thread, so to speak, fiber, thread that runs through it that I think is recognizable as being part of what our aesthetic is.
Wow, I didn't realize you guys work together in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, how fun. Or is it where you have a table and you're not, then you got to turn around and look, right? It's not right there, or is it?
Well, I have this area where I've got a couple of tall tables, and then I've got a wall space about the size of what I'm looking at in this studio, where I can put canvases or whatever substrate I'm working on at the moment. Akiko is to the right of me by this large window space, because with her sewing machines, she likes to have that natural light. For me, light is important, but not that important. I can mix it with fluorescent, whatever. But so she's over there, she's doing her work. I may have admin stuff for a week and only get into the studio after she's gone. She'll come in and she'll take a little break, and I'll go in the studio. And it's not like we've established shifts. That's just how the life cycle works, you know what I mean? And then there's nothing like when we're both working on separate work, where Akiko, how's that color mix? What can you make a suggestion for me? There's something that's mutual here or contrasting. She'll do it. Usually, sometimes she says, I'm doing my own work, you know, and she says it very strongly, and I get that. But, you know, it's amazing. I mean, even though I in the collaborative process, I do work with other people, there's just Akiko and I can be in the same studio and work for hours and not say a word to each other. And there's not this sense of strain of we have to both communicate and socialize. As a matter of fact, I know in some of my workshops, I think erroneously or in error, try to recreate that atmosphere of like ambient drone music or whatever it may be. And that's not the vibe for those kind of sessions, because people, they want the rock, you know what I mean? They want the jazz and all of this, and that's fine. But I can't, I know what I know, and I know what works for me. That doesn't mean that that's going to work for you.
Yeah.
And much of it does. We do have good results, and I can always be, well, this is what's happening. But it's like I have to have a certain flexibility and be sensitive to what makes others comfortable in that kind of setting. You know what I mean? Because let's also face it, these are clients. They become friends and they become associates and all of that. But at both the beginning of the day and the end of the day, I have not just implied, I have told people, I've invited them and told them that this is what we're going to do, or this is at least the kind of thing we're going to explore. So I can't, and this took a little while to accept, even just talking about the music. I have to be sensitive to the sensibilities of others, because that ambient sense of timelessness, like having kind of this life soundtrack thing where time is suspended and, wow, I've been in the studio 4 hours. I didn't know. That works for me, and it works for a lot of other people too.
Yeah.
But it's like, hello, I'm a customer here. That's putting me to sleep. I don't like it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? With I have this playlist I use for workshops,
Yeah.
and then at a certain point, day 4, it's like, well, if anyone wants to put music on, and it's very different.
Yes,
and sometimes it's not doesn't work.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it just doesn't, and there's just flow music,
Yeah,
or
man.
music.
Right.
I don't know. Some music is more open to doing things with it. And I mean, I know this is totally subjective.
Yes,
but
it
I can
is.
feel it in the room. If something's weighing on people,
Right.
and then you turn it off and people are like, oh, you
can
get
lift
a
it.
collective sigh of relief. But it's hard because it's that person's music
Yeah.
that they like,
That's right.
and so it's like,
That's right.
but you want to bring all this different music in,
Yeah. Well, ultimately, you want to provide a satisfactory and conducive atmosphere, and that is one element of it. Everything doesn't happen at once, but eventually, just like techniques or points of view, the mantra that I said to you earlier: trust yourself. I trust you that you can resolve it. That's potent stuff, but that doesn't mean that got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It takes a minute. It takes, okay, this is how Carl is working. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to come back to the next session. Maybe I'll mentor with him. Let me send him an email. And I get it now. I get it, Carl. And I stay with some things that aren't obvious initially, because I have seen, as you've seen, that with persistence, with practice, if you will, that there is a payoff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then you see, we still get into that mindset, and we just talked about it, about the music. This music, yes, this is the music. This is what you need.
Right. It's like they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I know that you're huge on collaboration, which is I love about
Yeah.
you. There's so many ways you do this. And can you just give the listeners kind of the Global Art Project? You founded that. I mean, I don't know how many years now. It's been quite a while.
It's literally, I think it's going on 11 years. I think 2012 is when we began. The background on that, or the prequel on that, is that and we just had 10 years on this show, last year on this project. It was called Knee Jerk fragmentation project, and that term about frags means obviously fragmentation, or to me, fragmentation. And so we quote invent the word frags. Now keep in mind that frags were also like the debris that came out of bombshells, et cetera. So, so there was this conscious, yeah, thank you. There was this conscious insistence, if you will, that here is frags, and we'll define it as detritus, is what you leave on the studio floor. It's things that you throw away. It's failed pieces. It's a torn piece of canvas that becomes a valuable art piece for someone else, that you spur their interest or creativity by allowing or sharing something that failed for you or is no longer of interest to you, or perhaps it is of interest, but you want to share it to serve as an impetus to someone else to make another creation. And you can work solo with Global Art Project, and I'll get into that, history about it, but just what the process is that with frags, and that's only one of several projects that we do that are ongoing, you will send frags to someone in France. Because it's an exchange project, they will then send you, not if you send 5, they send you 5, not necessarily. You can send as many or as little as you want. To backtrack, because my mind is a sieve, the knee-jerk fragmentation project involved 500 artists. We produced 3,000 pieces of art, and I archived a bunch. We just did a show at Diablo College Art Library last year on its 10th year anniversary. And this was not so much sending frags, but it was a 1-for-1 5x7 postcard size exchange. If you send me 5, I'll send you 5. I archived some. It would be from, say, AJ or Akiko. I would send one of hers, one of Akiko's, one of mine. I'd send them to you. You would, in turn, either send me 5 of yours or 5 of other people's, et cetera. So there's this constant flow of different completed works that we then began. I kind of expanded the idea of what frags or fragmentation was. And I enjoyed the process, the not doing mail art, but using mail as a delivery system. Because I had, and I think I still maintain, kind of this superior attitude, to be honest, about what mail art is, and even stamp art, et cetera, and even Xerox art. And I played with all of them, but I tried to play with them from the point of view of documenting the process, as opposed to, I'm a mail artist, and I'm not. I'm not a mail artist.
And these frags,
Yeah.
people were prompted by, they got something in the mail that they ripped off. So it was one-on-one. One person sends to another person.
That's exactly right.
And it's arbitrary, they don't even know, and you would get a collection of things sent to you, and then you respond to it.
That's exactly right, exactly right. And so I could have an envelope that's from you, for instance, and add my paint or my fire hydrant or whatever it may be, or other frags, and create a piece that I would accredit to. The name of this piece is whatever it is. It's called Fire Hydrant, and with frags from Nicholas Wilton, Sausalito, California, something like that. Now, that's one way to collaborate. We also know that we're in the studio together, where you're working, I'm working, we're working on a piece. That's another way to collaborate. So we began, I can't say we invented it by any means, but we recognized it as another way, remote collaboration as another way to collab. Now, I may have 3 envelopes and grab 2 pieces from here, 1 there, that are of interest to me, and create a piece where I would then say, this is the Fire Hydrant's the name of this piece, with collab.
Yeah, contributions from.
Boom, you got it. And that's extremely important. The other part with gap, and then we'll get into what gap is that the piece belongs to the author. It belongs to that person. And if you sell it, that's your benefit. That's fine. You can, of course, if you care to, here, guy, here's some shekels as well. But that's really not the point. But it was important to establish that. It's not what's the thing called?
NFTs.
Exquisite, and not NFTs. Don't even NFTs. It's not exquisite corpse, for instance. You know what I'm saying? Which is another not fave way of working for me either. It's what could you say, like coffee clatch work or something like that. And that's a prejudice on my part. It's a horrible thing to say, but I said it.
But how would so did you just put like a call for interest out there, and and you had everyone's emails.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. That goes back to the media background that it took me a long time to get involved with, say, Facebook, because that was where we started with that in 2011 and 12. And I'm looking, hey, I'd like to exchange work with you. I like your work or whatever it may be. Can I send you some frags? And it would be I think I probably started with individuals and started to collect this one-for-one exchange that they told someone, and someone else told someone, and then I did a call out for it, and here's the project. Now, it was a project that was an end in itself. At that point, we had no exhibitions planned. I just would archive stuff, and it took 10 years before we showed the work. And we also combined that with the drawing box. Dee Henshaw out of Ireland has a group that I also do work with that works kind of similarly, where you send your drawings and she shuttles around this traveling exhibition, which is the thing that I borrowed. And we've got a show that opens with Gap in Belgium at the time of this taping, not to time date it, but I guess I am, on September 9th, where I don't have to be there, we just ship the work. And it comes out of the Frag Project, which is what Gap does as well. So please, now with Gap artists, it's here, we're all, what do you call it, administrators on this particular album. Paste it all over the world, put it on Instagram, sell it, it's fine. But at least put it in this album and give attributions to who sent you the frags, so that when I have a exhibition opportunity, I can curate from that and say, send me this piece if it's still available. And we've done that with artist-generated exhibitions in Spain, in Germany, in Argentina, all within the past year, but recently, a lot of little shows where the artists, for instance, in Belgium, that show, we had some artists, 6 Belgian artists who do primarily assemblage together, who know some of the Gap members in like the Netherlands or whatever, because obviously, Belgium is like going to San Francisco to LA. They can do that, right? One of the women remarked to me, who goes by the name of Harry Styles. Her name's actually Frédéric Grignot. She just was talking to me and was saying, hey, I want to do something like this with my group. And so I said, now this is like being the administrator and the Papa Bear. I felt that one way, I won't say to corral it, but to keep it within our format, I says, why don't we do a show together?
Right.
And they have a bunch of like gigantic storefronts available. We've been planning this for 1 year, and as I say, it opens in next week. So I sent her, having curated from our Frag project, I told these guys, we'll send this work. You States guys in the US, send me the work, because there's that fun of shipping to Europe and VATs and all that other crap. And if you are in Europe, just ship directly. So again, it's artist-generated stuff that's collaborative, curatorial, that then has evolved where the 6 Belgian artists, I sent them a bunch of frags, because I have tons of them, from the membership through the years, even some members that aren't currently involved. And they have created new works that they'll show. And I mean, it's just really amazing. They're creating a dialogue where they've extrapolated from works that we've sent here's a 2D work, that they will then do their interpretation of it as a 3D sculptural piece or something. And it's just really taken off to the point where, like, as I say, Argentina, Spain, and Belgium, that I don't have to pay. I don't have to be in control of everything, is what it amounts to.
Yeah, this is running.
It's running, exactly.
And it somehow ties into these shows, and you promote it, and they can sell their work, and you're connecting. You're connecting people.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
To say real quickly what Gap is from that knee-jerk fragmentation project, 500 artists, et cetera, there was a core group of people from Japan, Akiko being one. Lorna Crane, and a lot of your listeners will know Lorna Crane is an incredible facilitator. You know her as well, wonderful. Vera Gerstenkorn in Israel, Chaewon Oh in South Korea, myself, and then a couple of folks who have fallen off the grid. But 6 of us originally that we created a relationship. So out of 500, I corralled these 6 folks. And long story short, we decided to meet after 2 or 3 years of working remotely. We met in Venice at Palazzo Carzanardi, which unfortunately closed because of the pandemic. We did that in 2014, and we had 30 days together, working with the local community, et cetera, and that was the first of our 8 art residencies. So GAP right now is 80 members in 17 countries. And it's, I have a home all over the world, which is wonderful. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. And we have great relationships with each other. We just did a great thing. The 8th residency after 4 years of the pandemic was in Lecce, Italy in the south. And it's like going home for me, absolutely, with great installations. We had something that was kind of based on the opportunity to do installations based on Crossing Borders, which is another of our traveling shows that's going to be in North Carolina at Gallery 9 in Charlotte, November 2024, that began in Ghent, Belgium, Jennifer Perlmutter's gallery, San Francisco Bay Area in 2020. And our subtitle had been, "And We Are All Immigrants," which is of the moment, for obvious reasons.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been an incredible journey, and it remains such. A wonderful opportunity to address the high and the low end of what art can be, the collaborative aspect of what art can be, the gallery museum elements, the intellectual elements, the fun elements, the surprise elements.
That's so cool. And how do you, I mean, just the logistics, how do you stay connected? Do you have a Facebook group or something?
Absolutely. We have a private group. We have our usual messenger systems. My admin assistant, one of Patricia Calabro, takes care that we have a spreadsheet to contact each other, et cetera, et cetera. And there's constant dialogue and information. I mean, some members are more active than others. We have many levels of art experience. It's like a 24/7 practice workshop as far as, hey, does that sound legitimate? Speaking of NFTs or whatever, does that sound legitimate? This guy wants to teach and he wants $500 or whatever it is. Is that legitimate? You get people's opinions and their perspectives. And, how was this incredible Biennale in, Tagos? Is that real or not? Et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's, it's what's nice about it, because we were talking earlier about the workshops and the residencies, because you do the same thing. Like, oh my God, this is the last one. I'm finished, because it's so. They take a year to do, at least.
Yeah,
they take a long time.
Conversations around it.
Yeah, and you go like, why am I doing this? But so I know why.
Yeah, and so tell me, what's going on with your work? What's coming next, right? Like, you say you're kind of into it.
Yeah.
Why? What's happening?
That's a great question. I'm into it because of the results, and I don't just mean the plastic results. I mean the results of how it makes me feel, the results of how it informs me as a person.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are kind of both ephemeral and untouchable things. These are things that I know. I don't go to church. Sorry, Mom. I don't go to church, but I know I have a sacred practice.
And what do you feel? How does it make you feel? I'm just curious.
It makes me feel lighter. It makes me it makes me drop what needs to be dropped. It makes me connect with, as I say, this ancient practice, because I'll get into like feeling like, man, okay, that person on the cave wall who scratched is, I'm doing the same thing. And I'll tell you something that's kind of an aside. I love it when someone says, wow, that's beautiful. A lot of times it's surprising me, because I don't aim for beautiful. I really don't. And I never have. I'm just trying to make the work. And, there's a certain harmony, there's a certain connectivity. And I think in that sense, yes, there is beauty in that. And that beauty may not be evident physically, visually, this kind of beauty that I'm talking about, because I think the process is beautiful. But to say, oh, that's, I really like that color. I mean, people tell you stories about your work. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. There's that selfish aspect, and I'd say that without apology, and it's not even a value to it. I work because selfishly it makes me feel good. It makes me a better person, and that I do it for myself. Now, it will be an intersection of someone's interest in what I'm doing, and that's great. And I do all these other peripheral things, Gap included to a certain extent, but I mean, I don't have a side job anymore, thank God. But the side jobs, you know what I mean. The side jobs always informed my practice, so that I could go practice, so I could make art. And that all I do is make art, or that's my primary job as a person now.
You create stuff,
I
art,
create
workshops, communities, collaborations.
I do. And it's all one of a kind. It's like there's no difference from what I do in a workshop. I do more in my practice, but there's still no difference. It's not like some invented thing like that I can pigeonhole and say, that's me. Yeah. Go wrap that up and take that home. It's not about that. I like that I sell work. I like that I exhibit. I need to support myself, and that's just the truth. And there's no apologies for that. It's exhausting very often, and I'm someone, I think when I was younger, I kind of prided myself, and I'm laughing, by saying I do what I want to do. I don't do anything I don't want to do. Well, that's not true. And even some of the decisions around what I wanted to do or have done, I go like, bad idea, kid. You know what I mean? Not the right moment for that.
Yeah.
But I don't really regret any of it, because it's brought me up to and including this moment, where I can kind of reflect on what the heck it's been about and remains about. I don't know. There's a relief. I think I'm probably a troubled person who finds relief in creating stuff. I remember my mom one time had asked me, I don't know, maybe I'm 12, 11, something like that. What is it you want to do? Which is always one of those, put you on the spot questions, like, wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
And I just said, I like to make things with my hand. Now, what I had understood making things with your hand meant then was you're a carpenter, or, you build cabinets or something. I did very good in woodwork class, and also printmaking, which probably had a more aesthetic feel for me. But I didn't know what I was talking about, and I certainly wasn't talking about being an artist. But I remember, and I chuckle from time to time when I say that my response was, I like to do stuff with my hands. What does that mean? I'm going to be a driver?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. And so you're into your work now, like physically color. What are you excited about? What are you making now?
I'm into black right now.
Black.
And I'm into black because it is problematic. It's problematic on so many levels. I mean, not just as a color or as a paint, if you will, or a pigment. The wisdom is that, it incorporates all the colors, and yet it is not a color. Is it an art color, et cetera? And I've never bought into that, but I'm finding myself really working toward simplification, very much into the mark making, and the contrast between black and white, and those colors that lie in between, with something that is subtle, pastel-y, but at the same time harmonious, but still contrasty. So there's a funny line, and it's like, always looking to increase my knowledge of the relationships between color. I think I told you a long time ago, 5 years ago, that I came to color, or to have confidence with color, late. I started in the fine arts, if you will, as a photographer, a black and white darkroom photographer, and it's a beautiful, magnificent black and white and grays is fantastic. But gosh, I'm not Ansel Adams, and let's just leave that alone, Carl. And so when I started to get in a little more physical work as a painter, or even collagist, I was able to experiment with color, and even the frags are nice. Oh, it's already made. It's there already. I don't have to think
Just
about it.
grab it.
Just grab it and then do something that relates to it, perhaps. Or what do you feel about that? But I've delved in, and Akiko has been really helpful with my education around color relationships and color mixing and that kind of thing. My work, I think, is growing richer, even though at the moment I'm really working black and white a lot. And I think that goes back to my work in photography primarily. I mean, the work is still abstract. There may be something figurative here and there, but it's abstract figuration. I think that there are people who do realistic work or figurative work so much better than I do, that in my limited life, I'm going to do what seems to both appeal to me, that I seem to handle well.
That's a strategy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean?
I'll
And
be
I
over
enjoy
here.
it. I'm over here.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Right,
I don't see you doing, and maybe I've just missed it,
Yeah.
but do you ever do like 8-foot works, like giant
yeah,
things?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of 2022 and the beginning of this year. I've been doing a lot of unstretched canvas that are like 8 feet, 12 feet, that
Oh,
kind
wow.
of thing.
Wow.
And
Unstretched, just put them on the wall.
Yeah.
And then you're
go
just
to work.
throwing paint on,
Right,
changing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And seeing, I tell a lot of people in my mentoring setting, that's very nice. That 5x7 is very nice. That 10x10 is very good. Now let's increase the dimensions. Let's go for it, because it's a different bag of worms.
Yeah.
To recreate something that feels successful in a smaller format, and it is a big challenge. It's a physical challenge. I wanted to address it while I still physically am able to. I mean, I'm 71. I'll be 72 in December. And I tell you something that's scary, man. It's not to put a damper on the thing, but people that I know, dropping 71, 74, 75. My dad was 72 when he passed. And I'm going like, I feel great. I got a good friend, and I'll say his name, Aldo Longo. He and his wife, Chiyomi Longo, late 80s. He just turned 90 years old. And we're just like, yay, running together. And I know that I'm not my dad's 70. I know that. But guess what? Clock is ticking, and it always has been, but it really is ticking. And so, I do continue to try a lot of different things, because that is just my nature. But the physicality of working a 12-footer, for instance, it's like, and it's serious. It's an investment. It's an investment of your resources. It's an investment of your energy. It's a challenge to the imagination. And what feels more comfortable? I do put in quotes. I can churn out something that's 16 by 20 or 20 by 30 or even 48 by 48. I can do that physically very comfortably. But something that is, as I say, 72 by 12 feet, that's a little more serious. There's a piece that I did that came out in 2022. That is literally that big 12-footer. I put it away because I had a sense of what the impetus was. It looks like masks or African faces. And the fact that I went into figuration was really kind of, I won't say disturbing to me, but it was very interesting. Where's that coming from? And so I've got some ideas about how I want to complete it, but I didn't want to go for the first solution. And I found it so challenging that I had to roll it up and put it away. Then I unrolled it, did some things to it, and I've rolled it up again. So just this past week, which is interesting, I'm trying to clear out what I'm doing, the little project that I got on the table at the moment, so that I can pull it out again and toward completion. Because I think for me right now, where I am in my life or my practice is really completion. It's not to be morbid or to be negative or depressive, but I am in my last phase. And so what do I want to leave? What do I want stuff to look like? Do you see what I mean? So, I mean, could have been 25 in my last phase, believe me, but there's no doubt about it now. You know what I mean? So there is that sense of, I hate to use the word legacy, but I guess that's a true thing too. When someone thinks about, well, Carl Heyward, he did this, and his work looks like that, and hama. I find that not in the Richard Nixon or Donald Trump sense of wanting to leave a legacy and then going crazy doing stuff, but I like to be able to leave some evidence of something worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So, kind of in wrapping here, I'm curious how this time right now is different than it was 5 years ago when we were talking, and the need for art, and just you're in it and you're making your work and you're completing things. But how is it different for you? Do you get a sense of this time? I'm trying to come to that myself, and curious.
I think that we're in a great position because we travel outside of the country, and then we weren't able to for the last 4 years, for instance. And even though we had interaction with people, even with the masks, et cetera. And by the way, who was it? Jill Biden just came down with COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ. So the point of it is that we've learned to navigate with it, through it, live with it, et cetera. I think that we have an opportunity to look at what relationships are about. That part of the legacy thing that I just talked about is something that I've been able to muse over because we had the respite that was imposed upon us by COVID. The fact that we talked about people are really eager for residencies and workshops and the face-to-face interaction. For me, I used the time during COVID to really invest in my practice. To figure out ways to continue to have relationships with people, social distancing, the masks and all of that, and workshops, et cetera. But there was a reduction of the social interaction, of the social contract. So even if someone hasn't intellectually examined in real time or during that period of time what it means, or you're not aware of the conversation about this is the time of the plague and gosh, I sure miss doing this, that, and the other. There's something that's internalized in all of us that I believe comes out as artists in our art, no matter what. If it's like pretty pictures of the beach or landscapes or abstracts that we wish we could have gotten to during the time of COVID, it's sort of a purging or a window into what we actually seek and what we actually desire. So now art receptions, and I'm going to one tonight, are heavily attended. There is even more investment in art as a practice. There is even more investment in viewing work, et cetera. Why don't you talk about the collecting part about it? That's another subject. But as far as what we benefited from, how we make sense of this time, you turn on any news channel and we're bombarded with whatever perspective of the moment is being presented to us. A lot of it is extremely bleak. I can remember 5-7 years ago, we would not see the evidence of climate change, and we certainly are seeing it. And it's accelerated to a point that it's almost unbelievable. It's undeniable. How do you incorporate that into your work? Do you do it in a fatalistic way? I talked about immigration. I can talk about kind of the right-wing mentality that's not just in this country, but is throughout the world. A certain kind of an intolerance, a certain sort of ignorance permeates the culture, I think, and it's acceptable. So what does that mean to me? I can kind of, I am re-engaging is I think what I'm getting to. I'm re-engaging. I have always characterized myself as kind of a social hermit. My preference is to just be in the studio, and honestly, if I could not see anyone, family included, selected people, I would do that. But it's both not possible. I kind of flirted with that during the pandemic. The pandemic wasn't bad for me as a hermit, But I do have social skills, and I also think I have responsibilities, and maybe I've kind of reassessed what those are. I'm surprised when I'm welcomed. I'm surprised when people have what I think is an accurate perspective of who I am as a person, when people are glad to see me, you know what I mean?
There's like a reflection and a connection right now that we need, that we all need to see each other and be seen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're pointing at.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we need each other more than ever.
I think so. We need each other in the right way.
Yeah.
And that's actually been true the whole while, but I think there have been so many distractions and there have been so many other kinds of choices that we have been either encouraged to make, chosen to make, or we weren't aware of the preciousness of the connection.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's available to us. You know, if we talk again next year, I'd be curious what my take would be then.
Yeah.
But right now, that's it. And I thank you for both posing the question, but also for the invitation, because the kind of reflections that you have in your studio or, you know, having coffee alone are very different. You get a different perspective because you also get feedback when you're able to share it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very valuable, and that is good for me. It's also good information for me, and I humbly accept it. And maybe 4 years ago, pre-COVID, I wouldn't have been so eager to have come to this assessment.
Well, Carl, listen, thank you so much for sitting down and catching up. And it was really great. I love that I've been doing this long enough to where I get to circle back now. And it's just amazing, all the things that occur in between. So you guys, there's show notes. You can find all of Carl's links, all the cool stuff he's doing. I mean, you're just a center of community and collaboration. And it's a real privilege to talk to you.
Thanks for saying that. My pleasure. Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Please leave a review, it'd be awesome. But best of all, if you can share this episode with someone who might find it useful, helpful, inspiring, that's the best of all. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week on the Art2Life podcast. Okay, bye.